Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in, and in this video we're going to dig deeper into the high school system in the US for us as an immigrant and refugees to really show you guys how it works and talk about some of the tips and tricks that basically goes deeper into everything that exists within this system, so you as a student, or if you're watching this for your kids, can take advantage of in order to put yourself at advantage in compared to your classmates, or at least know the system in order to make the best out of it. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the very first factor, which I really wanted to shove it into the previous video, but I didn't, because I believe this is a very important factor that every student should take advantage of, and I'm really not exaggerating it because it can be applied and help you guys at different levels of life. So it's not just going to apply to you as a middle school student or high school student, it's going to apply to you when you go to college, even if you're talking about a 2-year or community college or a 4-year university, or if we're talking about marriage, having a spouse, or talking about employment. And it's nothing but becoming part of the school's team or teams, and I'm talking about specifically sport teams. And I personally have played sport my entire life. I started with soccer, then chess, then ping pong, and badminton, volleyball, but specifically when I moved to the US, I was mostly focusing on playing volleyball and badminton at the varsity level, or we should say professional level. And take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I will dig into the reasons that I want you guys to take away from this very important recommendation, and you will be the judge. If you agree with them, go with this advice. If you don't, then make your own educated guesses. Alright? So why am I arguing that you should be part of these high school teams or school teams? Because it can also relate to elementary schools. One, let's talk about what am I really talking about, especially if you're an immigrant or someone who's planning to immigrate to the US and haven't run into this, so you don't have that much information. So as I talked about in the very first video of high schools, PE, or playing sports, or especially keeping students active, is very important, and it's going to be part of their schedule when they're in high school or when they're in middle school. Specifically, either it's part of their A days or B day schedule. But it doesn't end there. Let's say a student has this background of playing the sport professionally or playing the sport for multiple years, or this other student is really passionate about taking it to the next level. The schools here give them the opportunity for free. Free is a key word here. To do that, basically. How? There will be announcements. So for example, let's say a full school year has different seasons, and each season is for different sports. So each sport has their own season. Especially when it comes to the beginning of the school year, we are starting with a football and basketball season, and then it goes to swimming, then it goes to and this can vary, I'm just talking about what it was or how it was set up in my high school, but then it was volleyball, badminton, and etc., track and field, and so forth and so on. And so what happens is that basically you will receive this announcement either via email, in the school newspaper, or in the announcement portion of the early mornings that they have, and they're talking about these opportunities that, look, if you're interested in participating or becoming part of the school's volleyball team, please show up for these tryouts after school today, tomorrow, and the day after. So what will happen, which these very first sessions when they basically are choosing students, choosing the players are called tryouts. And so you show up with a t-shirt that you're comfortable in, with a shirt, basically something that you're comfortable in, and start performing that sport. Now, what becomes important is that it depends which school year you're at. If you're a freshman and sophomore, you're usually going to get directed toward JV team or junior varsity. But if you're a junior or senior, you're going to get directed towards varsity team. Or there's there's an important factor here, and it's if you know a lot about that sport and you have experience for many years playing that sport, which the coach will immediately find out by just looking at you practicing with the ball, or just practices that they have on the tryouts, they will immediately catch you. They can put you into varsity, which is the highest level that you can potentially be immediately, pretty much, even if you are a freshman or sophomore, which then you become that cool guy. Alright, so usually if you are placed into the JV, it means that you have a little bit of work to do, or it's because of your school year where you're placed at, basically, or it's because of how much you know about that sport. Like, for example, if you really don't have that much information, or you're passionate to learn about that sport but never tried it before, they usually put you at JV, and you will have the opportunity to learn the sport. Versus those who have some sort of experience, they can be either placed at JV or varsity. Now, varsity is really the sunshine of the school team, where majority of people do take the time to come and watch the games, especially when you guys go against other schools. You will receive often different jerseys, or you will have new jerseys, and the JV has to take over the older jerseys, and then it just has a different reputation versus the JV team. Not to say that it really matters, because what you're aiming at shouldn't be that difference, but should be these factors that we're going to talk about. Because no matter where you get placed at, the fact that you're participating or becoming part of these school teams is always going to put you at advantage. Why? Because A, you will receive free coaching, and coaching is very expensive here in the US. So by joining these teams, you're doing yourself and your family a favor, especially if you like that sport, because you will receive all these educations for free. So if I were you, I would join these teams as soon as possible, so I at least can be placed at JV when I'm freshman, learn the sport, practice it more in my sophomore year, and then by the time I'm junior, I can qualify to be part of the varsity team. Or if I'm accelerating super fast, I can even be placed at varsity when I'm sophomore. So joining these teams and receiving this free education is always going to be at your benefit if you're joining them as soon as possible, or within the beginning classes of high school or middle school. So you have free coaching as one of the benefits. The second benefit is the reputation that comes with it when you're joining these teams. Because when you do, and let's say you get qualified and you get picked on and you're part of the team now, you will have a different reputation in compared to other students. You might ask why. We're all equal. Yes, we're all equal. But just put it into perspective. The other students, alright, and we're not judging anyone, alright? We know everybody has a different life, but we're just saying it on the very fine level of looking at this from a simple perspective. Other students are coming to school just like you do. They take care of their homework, they take care of the days that they have to take a test, take quizzes, and they do their best in order to get the best grade possible, which is the same case as you. However, when you're joining these teams, and you become a student athlete. Now you're committed to participate in these practices, which are often 2 to 3 hours, and we're not talking about the game days. These 2 to 3 hours practices that are happening often every day after school. So they don't care if the next day you have a test. They don't care if your parents are sick. They don't care if you're sick. Nothing matters. Make it happen. And take care of your school stuff too. Because you need to have a minimum GPA in order to be able to participate in these teams. Alright, so just putting it on a perspective, on a very simple surface, like putting it on a surface from a very simple perspective, you are just doing more than an average student that comes to class. You're trying to do your best with everything that is going academic wise, right? Quizzes, tests, homeworks, learning the lessons, and then you have the sports. You have to take care of the days that you have to learn something, then you have to perform, then there are like these mini games that you guys have, then you have the day of the game where you either have to migrate to a different school, right, with your team or by yourself and attend the game, and it can be in the middle of your class, so it will be your responsibility to catch up with that teacher later on. Or there's a game in your school and others are coming to your school, and on game days it's a different animal because it will take a lot more time. You have to set up the net, you have to become a ref, you have to basically help packing up everything, cleaning up, and all of those factors. And if it goes tie, the game gets tie, then there's a next round, so the game gets even longer or take longer time. And there are sometimes these heavy, what do we call them? There was a specific term, but there was like these tournaments where all the schools all of a sudden appeared in one gym, and then there was a heavy tournament going on, like back to back to back to back, and it was on weekends. So what if you have a test on Monday? They don't care. You have to show up, you have to do your best, and then just figure it out, right, in order to take care of that test too. So everybody knows that your body is slowly gonna transform depending on what sport you're practicing, obviously. So these are all indications that you will receive a different reputation within your classmates because you're part of that team, within your teachers because they know you're part of that team based on the jersey you wear and based on the passes that they have to give you if you have to cut in the middle of the class to attend those games, or etc., etc. And then most importantly, your reputation changes when it comes to putting together your resume, because when you put that thing there, it will act to your advantage. How? It will make you a more wholesome person, which majority of people that are recruiting their employees are looking for. They don't just want a nerd who went to school, took all the classes as you, and got the best GPA. They also want these people who have attended in these teams, know how to deal with different people, know when their boss or their employer is having a bad day, having a rough day, how to approach them, how to ask them questions, how to deal with an abuser in the team, how to deal with those who don't turn in their work, or they're trying to get away with it, or they're trying to put all the work on your back. They're looking for that one candidate that knows how to deal with all of those stuff. And what a better way than for you to learn this stuff from a very young age. And it will come all by practicing when you're part of these teams. What better way, right? Because when you're in high school, elementary school, in your classes you're going to be placed in teams, In your classes, you're going to have different individuals that you have to deal with. In your classes, you're going to have the teacher that you have to obey, your dean that you have to obey, your principal that you have to obey. When you go to a 2-year university or community college, it's going to be the same thing. When you go to a 4-year university, it's going to be the same thing. When you become an employee, it's going to be the same thing. When you get married, it's going to be the same thing, because you have everything coming at you. You have your kids, you have your wife, you have your the work circumstances coming at you. So what a better way than to practice this stuff from the very beginning. So you will learn how to deal with like different teams. You will learn how to deal with different people, that abuser, that person that wants to talk down to you. And you will receive this different reputation from your teachers, the classmates that you sit next to. You can take advantage of it in your resume. You get free coaching, and most importantly, whatever happens, these experiences that you have, right? In these teams, practicing in these teams, playing for these teams, you can talk about in your college personal statement or college application. It also is going to glow there. You can be like, I want to be this because of these experiences that I have experienced participating in these teams or being active in these teams. For example, I was abused, or I was laughed at, I was discriminated by these teammates. I didn't have enough evidence, but I wanted to fight it, so I had to go and learn about the laws that existed, collect my evidence, put it together with the laws that exist, go to my coach, go to the school officials, and get this guy out of it. And now I want to become a lawyer because I don't want to see these things happen to other students. I want to become a principal to have a more fair environment. You see, something like that. It gives you that story to talk about. It gives you that reason. And on top of that, just like putting it into your resume, you can mention it in your application as one of your extracurricular activities that you have done. Alright? So that's another thing. Now, they also become your family. These teammates I'm not talking about the family that you see in these movies. When a fight happens, they will come and back you up and they fight for you. Because usually that's not going to be the case. And I'm saying usually. Because when the fights happen, whoever is involved is going to have to deal with a horrible consequences. So usually people do not want to get themselves involved with. But they become your family and they can advise you, because usually these people, right, in these teams are older than you. So they can advise you, and especially as an immigrant, that you don't know much about the system. You don't know much about the clubs and all these little things that exist within this system. That will be a perfect opportunity for you to take advantage of. You can just go there, you'll learn from them by asking questions. Hey, what is this thing that you had around your neck that said ASB? What is ASB? They tell you. Hey, how about that club that you attended the other day? And they will tell you. So they become your family. They can advise you, your teammates. Because when you're working, when you're going into wars with these other teams, with your teammates, you are one. It's not just you versus them. You are all one team. So they respect you. And then on top of that, for any immigrants, it's important to learn the language as soon as possible, as well as learn the culture as soon as possible, right? The American culture. At least that was the case for me. And with participating in these teams, you have banquets, you have birthday parties, and you have end of the season ceremonies that you can go to. You learn how to dress up. You learn all these words, because you keep listening to these conversations all your teammates have, their parents have. You go to their houses and learn more about the culture. Alright, these are all the benefits of joining school teams, and I hope this video was helpful to you. Please do so, because it's going to work to your benefit. Until the next video.